Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Just a moment, please. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jannava Jai Girivaradari, Jaya Girivaradari, Gopi Jannavalabha, Jai Girivaradari, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana, Jamuna Tiravanachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jamuna Tiravanachari, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Gopi Jannavalabha, Jaya Girivaradari, Jaya Girivaradari, Gopi Jannavalabha, Jaya Girivaradari, Jaya Girivaradari, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana, Jaya Yashodanandana, Jaya Braja Janaranjana, Jamuna Tiravanachari, Natiramanachari Jai Kunja Bihari Jai Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Damodara Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Brihvajakacharya Stottara Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Brihvajakacharya Stottara Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Srimate Devamita Swami Tanamani Pachara Guru Varakshmaja Bhakta Charvinata Parartha Pikarananim Yasa Sarvajtinam Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanamani Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Satarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the King of Books. 5th Canto, Chapter 6, text number 13. Tasya nugunan shlokan gayanti Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya dvipeshu varsheshva adi punyam etat gayanti yatratya jana murare karmani bhadrani avataravanti. Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya dvipeshu varsheshva adi punyam etat gayanti yatratya jana murare karmani bhadrani avataravanti. Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya dvipeshu varsheshva adi punyam etat gayanti yatratya jana murare karmani bhadranya avataravanti. Word for word translation says, Tasya, of him, Lord Rishabhadev, anugunan, conforming to the instructions for liberation. Shlokan, verses. Gayanti, chant. Aho, oh. Bhuvaha, of this earthly planet. Sapta Samudravatya, possessing 7 seas. Dvipeshu, among the islands. Varsheshu, among the lands. Adipunyam, more pious than any other island. Etat, this, Bharatvarsha. Gayanti, sing about. Yatratra Janaha, the people of this tract of land. Murare, of Murari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Karmani, the activities. Bhadrani, all auspicious. Avataravanti, in many incarnations, such as Lord Rishabhadev. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Learned scholars chant about the transcendental qualities of Lord Rishabhadev in this way. Oh, this earthly planet contains 7 seas and many islands and lands, of which Bharatvarsha is considered the most pious. People of Bharatvarsha are accustomed to glorifying the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his incarnations as Lord Rishabhadev and others. All these activities are very auspicious for the welfare of humanity. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Bharata Bhumite Haila Manushya Janma Yara Janma Satark Kari Kara Para Upakara. As stated in this verse, Bharatvarsha is a most pious land. The followers of Vedic literature understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different incarnations. And they are privileged to glorify the Lord by following the directions of Vedic literature. After realizing the glories of human life, such people should take up the mission to spread the importance of human life throughout the whole world. This is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The word Adipunyam indicates that there are certainly many other pious men throughout the world, but the people of Bharatvarsha are even more pious. Therefore, they are fit to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world for the benefit of all human society. Srila Madhvacharya also recognizes the land of Bharatvarsha, Visheshad Bharati Punyam. Throughout the world, there is no question of Bhagavad Bhakti or devotional service, but the people of Bharatvarsha can easily understand the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, every inhabitant of Bharatvarsha can perfect his life by discharging Bhagavad Bhakti and then preaching this cult throughout the world for the benefit of everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Sva Parantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So learned scholars chant about the transcendental qualities of Lord Rishabhadev in this way by saying, oh, this earthly planet contains 7 seas and many islands and lands, of which Bharatvarsha is considered the most pious. But why is that? Because the people of Bharatvarsha are accustomed to glorifying the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his incarnations as Lord Rishabhadev and others. All these activities are very auspicious for the welfare of humanity. So there are many places in the world, of course, that have some sense of God consciousness, practically everywhere, because it is a human tendency, much to the aggrandizement of the new atheists. You can't really snuff out that tendency to seek the ultimate truth, the absolute truth, something greater than ourselves, something transcendental. And so we find that manifesting in different cultures and traditions all over the world. Always happens in some form or another, whether it be some very basic or even crude animism, whereby one sees some sort of divine, supernatural power in the elements of nature, or if there's polytheism, whereby one sees, all sorts of different powerful beings that control the elements around them or their activities. Well, there's a lot of straight up theism, monotheism, of course, in various forms. But even most of the monotheistic traditions of the world has a vague sense of the personality of Godhead. At best, they might have some conception of God being all-powerful, Allah, or God being the original, or God is love, Yahweh. But not many traditions throughout the world have the sense of God as being the supreme personality of Godhead. Swayam Bhagavan, Adi Purusha, and the supreme enjoyer, Shyamasundara, Krishna. Not many people really get that. It is a very special understanding, and it doesn't come easy. Let's be honest. Just because it came easy to us by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, doesn't mean it comes easy to others. We might take for granted how difficult it is for others to understand that. Or we might take for granted how easy it is for us to understand. It's actually difficult for many others. They have an idea that God is something so much bigger than us, so much more amazing, and very different from material energy. And so generally people's logical conception of God is just the opposite of materialism. It's generally the extent of how far one can go in trying to understand God with your own rational intelligence. And go as far as Brahman realization. With your own philosophical, logical intelligence, you can realize Brahman. That the absolute truth is homogeneous and all-pervasive. It is not material. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. This is a very logical conclusion, a very intelligent one. That's the extent that one can understand with their own capacity, with their own facilities, with your own brain and cleverness. To understand God as the Supreme Personality, as the enjoyer, as the lover. That only happens by the mercy of his devotees. Krishna reserves the right of not being fully understood. Here is to his own privacy. As he says in Bhagavad Gita, right, in chapter 7, who knows that verse? Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita buddhoyam navijananti loko yam rama rama hare hare. But he says that Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita. I don't have to be manifest prakasha. I don't have to reveal myself to everyone. Those who are mutta, those who are foolish, they can't understand my personal nature. So we should recognize it's very significant to know the personality of Godhead. It's not just our own cleverness. You're like, yeah, I understand. Yeah, makes sense to me. Yeah, I thought about it deeply, and therefore I know God is ultimately the supreme person, the supreme enjoyer. No, it's not really a matter of our thinking about it deeply. It's a result of the mercy of the Lord and his devotees. That the Lord chooses to reveal himself in his personal nature. That's his choice. It's nothing that we can do or intellectualize or philosophize to make him reveal himself. He is not obliged in that way. But he does give his devotees. And so if his devotees want to distribute love of God and understanding of the personal nature of God, then the Lord is obliged. And that's why Bharat Varsh is very special, because that tradition is there, because those devotees are there. They make the place pious by teaching Bhagavad Bhakti, by connecting others with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They make that place more pious than other places. So we should remember how fortunate we are to come in contact with a very special resident of Bharatvarsha. Prabhupada himself said, one Indian has spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. He was talking about himself. We don't often hear Prabhupada referring to his own ethnic identity, because, of course, we all know Srila Prabhupada as a transcendental person. But he did actually say in that, that's quoted here, Bharata Bhumite Haile Manusha Janma Yara. It's in Adi Lila chapter 9, I think, right? And he actually says there's one Indian who's, yeah. Hold on, I'm going to read it to you. Yes, Adi Lila chapter 9, text number 4 is this verse that's quoted here, that people of Bharatvarsha, they should make their life successful and benefit for the work and work for the benefit of all other people by spreading Krishna consciousness. Then Prabhupada says about himself, where is it? The practical effect of our spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world is that now the most degraded debauchees are becoming the most elevated saints. This is only one Indian's humble service to the world. He's referring to himself. If all Indians had taken to this path as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, India would have given a unique gift to the world, and thus India would have been glorified. Now, however, India is known as a poverty-stricken country, and whenever from America or another opulent country goes to India, he sees many people lying by the footpaths for whom there are not even provisions for 2 meals a day. And there are institutions for collecting money, but then they just spoil it. Anyway, probably recognizes that even one Indian, he says of himself. So it's significant. It's very significant to understand Bhagavad Bhakti. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We shouldn't take it as just some chance or just my own cleverness. And I'm very smart and I'm very special. And that's why I know Krishna is God. That's why I know that the ultimate truth, the absolute truth, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's because I'm so smart. And it's because we receive the mercy of the Lord. And particularly the mercy of one special resident of Bharatvarsha, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. That's why we understand that Krishna, that God is the supreme enjoyer, the lover. He has his lila, he has his guna, his rupa. Although there are many pious places throughout the world, there are many pious people, not very many have such a comprehensive understanding of the personality of God. We should recognize that difference. And of course, we should spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Let's look at some of the key words in this purport. Prabhupada wrote it, not me. First of all, he says, the followers of Vedic literature understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different incarnations. We like to use the term Vedic culture, the follower of Vedic culture, but here's another perspective on it. Followers of Vedic literature. In other words, what we propose to be Vedic culture must be substantiated by Vedic. Otherwise, simply a disturbance. I'm not going to cite any examples right now. As devotees, we do like to argue about it a little bit. But if it's not in the literature, then it's a disturbance, as is said by Rupa Goswami in that verse, which is going to come back into my brain any second now. Shruti smriti puranadi pantaratra vidim vina aikantiki harer bhaktir upatayaiva kalpate. If someone's practice, if their orthopraxy is not substantiated in the Shruti, the Smriti, the Puranas, and other literatures, then it's just a disturbance. So we like to say that we're followers of Vedic culture, but I think we should first say, are we followers of Vedic literature? Because that's what Prabhupada says. The followers of Vedic literature understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his different incarnations, and they are privileged to glorify the Lord following the directions of Vedic literature. So everything that we do, everything that we preach must be substantiated by Vedic literature. That's the standard set even by the Lord himself. Even Krishna is quoting Shastra. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva Hetu Madbir Vinishtita. He says, so this is what it says in the Vedanta Sutra. Even Krishna is quoting Shastra. So if you want to make some claim about Vedic culture, how we practice Krishna consciousness, how we glorify the Lord, it must be substantiated by Vedic literature. Otherwise, we've all got some good ideas. We've all got some perspective. We all have an experience, generally, of how we were first introduced to Krishna consciousness, and we tend to think that's the best way to do it. But we must be able to substantiate our claims to what pleases Krishna, how to please Krishna, with literature. So a very important point made by Srila Prabhupada in this purport. Some other keywords, as Prabhupada says in this purport, is that we should take up the mission to spread the importance of human life. Yeah, hold on. Where's that other one I was looking for? Therefore, they are fit to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world for the benefit of all human society. I think this is an important word for us to focus on in modern ISKCON. The benefit of all human society. How do we benefit all human society? Spreading Krishna consciousness, of course, but there are many human societies. There's a lot of different cultures around the world. Do we preach Krishna consciousness in the same way to all the different people of the world? Or do we deliver the message in a different way for different cultures? The answer is the latter. We can distribute Krishna consciousness in a different way for different cultures. And what we're seeing now, of course, that in order to share Krishna bhakti with people who are not from Bharatavarsha, we must present Krishna consciousness in a particular way, with emphasis on chanting the holy names of the Lord. And people are so attracted to chanting the holy names. We must have faith that just their attraction to chanting the holy names is sufficient for them to become fully realized in Krishna consciousness. Even if they have no idea, what is that verse? Even if they don't understand, what does Krishna mean? I mean, how many times do we hear this after we do a program, right? Those of you who do a lot of programs like this, we got Jiva Pandit, Parameshwari, of course, they've been doing these sort of things very recently, Nagaraj Nitai, Gari Krishna. So many devotees, we do so many programs. Oh, Sarama Prabhu's here, Lila Kishore, oh, Hari Bol, all these nice devotees here. Hare Krishna. So anyway, how many times have we all seen? You do a program, you have some new people here, you do a kirtan, you introduce them to chanting, get them to close their eyes and really focus on the sound. Sometimes you see the symptoms of ecstasy, move their bodies, they cry. I see a lot of crying in kirtan, even brand new people. And any time we hear afterwards, they come in to say, what does this mean? What does the mantra mean? They experience the ecstasy even without knowing the meaning of the mantra. How is that possible? We have to have faith that this is actually the quality of Krishna. As it says in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sanketyam parihasyam va stobham helanam eva va vaikuntanama grahanam asheshagra haram vidu. One who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, for musical entertainment, even neglectfully. This is accepted by all the learned scholars of the scriptures. One comes and they're just jokingly singing. Even if they're neglectful, still they are so benefited. The reactions of unlimited sins becomes destroyed. You have to have a lot of faith, and that's how we can present Krishna consciousness even to those who are not fortunate to be from Bharatavarsha. We must have faith in the power of the Holy Names. We see time and time again, people are attracted to chanting Krishna's names, even without knowing Krishna. Because Krishna is fully manifest in his holy names. In fact, that is the form of the Lord we are meant to worship in Kali Yuga. Kali Kalera Namarupa, Krishna Avatar. What is that verse? Kali Kalera Namarupa, Krishna Avatar. That's the only part I can remember. If someone can remember the rest of the verse, please tell me. But it says that in this Kali Yuga, that's how we're meant to worship. That's the avatar, the holy name of Krishna. We have to have a lot of faith in that. And then we can share Krishna consciousness with all people, as it says here, for the benefit of all human society. We must have so much faith in the holy names. But if we have some idea in our mind that, oh, they're all so fallen, they're just yavanas and malechas, worse than dog eaters, because it's true, actually. Worse than being a dog eater is be a cow eater. It's very, very bad. We have this idea in our mind that they're all just so low and they're just so fallen, not worthy of giving the time of day. Then how can we give them Krishna consciousness? Or if we think that I'm very advanced in consciousness because everybody else is so fallen, like that's my focal point. That's how I judge, is that I'm higher up than the next guy. So I must be advanced in bhakti. Then how can we give Krishna consciousness to others? If you want to give a gift, you have to love somebody. It's a loving exchange. And there's no greater gift to give than the holy name of Lord Krishna. It is the chintamani. It's more valuable than anything else. But to be able to give it, you have to love someone. You have to actually care about them. Not just think that they're so fallen, they're so wretched, not worth my time. I don't want to associate with them because I'm so much better than them. Then you cannot give. Some of Srila Prabhupada's Gaudas, they commented about Srila Prabhupada in this way. Yes, Swamiji is so successful because he is a businessman, but I do not have a taste for associating with low-class people. This is how they would think about all of those who are not Adipunyam, who are not from Varsh. They don't want to associate with low-class people. Then how can you give? How can you benefit all of human society? We're so full of ourselves. We can actually give when we love and when we care. So if you care about all of human society, then please make arrangement to give them the holy names of Krishna. Give them a chance to associate with Krishna by hearing his holy names, by chanting his holy names, by hearing his words in the Bhagavad Gita. It takes a lot of love and a lot of compassion, and it takes a lot of money. Unfortunately, I imagine it's a lot more expensive than it was in the 60s and 70s. But somehow we must do it. We can perfect our life by discharging Bhagavad Bhakti and then preaching this cult throughout the whole world for the benefit of everyone, throughout the whole world. My dear wife and kids recently went to Uzbekistan, which was like a 14-hour train ride from Almaty in Kazakhstan. And because of this whole thing going on in Russia, so many devotees, of course, are fleeing the country or have fled. Practically everyone's a refugee now. I teach English language to Russians, and practically all of them are now refugees. Everyone's trying to get out or has gotten out. It's really sad. So a lot of devotees, they've left Russia and they've gone to former Soviet countries like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. And so there's these big festivals going on. It's amazing that even in that situation, even in those circumstances, devotees, they just celebrate and glorify the Lord. So in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, Nandini, she showed me some videos from the temple there. Beautiful, beautiful temples. Even though it's very, very old civilization in Uzbekistan, there used to be Zoroastrians. Who even remembers the name of Zoroaster? That used to be the religion of that region. Of course, then the Muslims took over. And now there's these huge festivals in the temples, hundreds and hundreds of devotees in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, singing and dancing, glorifying the Lord, taking prasadam, having these loving exchanges. And it's just remarkable. It's so remarkable to see. And they wear their traditional garb, very, very beautiful traditional clothes in Uzbekistan. All the ladies, they wear these long flowing dresses, and the men have these cool hats and these vests and things. But they're chanting Hare Krishna, singing and dancing. It's just so amazing to see. So you have to have this confidence that it can benefit everyone. Because I think the hardest place to preach Krishna consciousness is America. So we need to have confidence. Even in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, they can do it. You can spread Krishna consciousness into Uzbekistan. So we must try in America. Because in America, it's a melting pot of ideas. It's a battleground of ideas. And sometimes you got to fight a bit to establish Krishna consciousness. But if we're confident that it really benefits everyone, then we'll find a way. That's the sadhu. Patikshava karunika, karunika, surida sarvadehinam, ajata shatrava shanta, sadhava sadhubhushanam. That's the sadhus, karunika, compassionate. That means you put in some effort to benefit others. If you have something that's so wonderful that has benefited you, then you must distribute it to others. Even the Americans, which is very hard. It must benefit others. And they definitely need it. There's this girl who comes to our center, and she's really amazing. She studies philosophy, which is like the number one symptom of being unintelligent. I'm being sarcastic. She's very intelligent, but you have to wonder, like, why does a person even get a degree in philosophy anymore? All you're going to get from that is debt and confusion. And that she said, these are her words, by the way. So she literally studying philosophy at Penn State. And she just makes all these jokes about how the professors speak. Just like endless questioning. They call it meta questioning. We have to question the questions and then questions the question, then question the questions you're using to question those questions. And it's just endless speculation. But she really wanted to pursue understanding of the absolute truth. And so she thought, this is how you do it. Take a course and get a degree in philosophy at university. But the trend nowadays is skepticism. That's considered intellectually sophisticated. This extreme blind skepticism, such whereby people are now of everything, even that the world as they know it exists. This is what people are really thinking these days in America. Those who are intellectual and philosophically inclined, they are so overwhelmingly skeptical of everything, even that the world exists outside of their mind. I've seen it so many times. And this girl was the first to really be explicit about it. It's actually an idea called solipsism. And it's borderline mental illness. But this is the very natural result of the sort of culture that exists in this country right now, whereby it's considered intellectually superior to just be skeptical of everything. And eventually you come to doubting even that what exists outside of your mind is real. So these people with solipsism, I say with solipsism because it's like a mental illness. They claim that I have no evidence that what exists outside of my mind is real. All of you who are listening, you're actually just figments of my own imagination. I am the only thing that exists as far as I know, and everything else is just a construct of my own consciousness, my own mind. People, they get into this hole, and it's very hard for them to get out, actually. It's very difficult. So in trying to share Krishna consciousness with this particular woman, I had to really look up the counter arguments to solipsism, popularized somewhat by Descartes with his brain in a vat philosophy, he called it. But we had to discuss the counter arguments, and I encouraged her in reading Bhagavad Gita, of course. And now, believe it or not, she sends me all these quotes that she's reading and asking all these questions about the different verses that she has there. She's already up to chapter 5, which is just remarkable. Remarkable that someone like that will sit down and read Bhagavad Gita and try to understand. But it's so easy when talking with a person like that to just be frustrated and be like, oh my God, you're just crazy. You're absolutely crazy. You're insane. You have no regulative principles. You have no sense of understanding of the self as not being the body. You have no culture. It's so easy to just dismiss huge swaths of people out of frustration because it's very hard to interface with them. And that's why in ISKCON, we're not preaching to Westerners enough, because it's very difficult. It's very difficult. But if we have compassion, karunika, then we'll just find a way. We must find a way. That's what Prabhupada's saying in this verse here. Benefit all human society. Preach this cult throughout the world for the benefit of everyone. We must find a way. And that way is the holy names of Krishna. Everyone, anyone, everywhere can chant the holy names of Krishna, have some realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if the Lord favors them, then they can realize Krishna in full. So we have to have faith that that is entirely possible, even though it's becoming more difficult every day, at least in this country. In other places, it's a lot easier to do Sankirtan. In Australia, it's like, wow, we made so many devotees. In America, it's a little harder. But as Prabhupada's indicating in this verse, just one Indian, he says of himself, was able to accomplish so much. But to speak of if all the people of Varsha really took to spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, and those of us who have come in contact with that one very special Indian, we really took that mission to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, could benefit everyone. I just heard Prabhupada yesterday. He said, we're not interested in the stars. Just need one moon can shine light everywhere. When someone was asking Srila Prabhupada, how is it there's such a small number of people following, this Krishna consciousness? How can you really expect to have such an effect on the world? And Prabhupada's answer was, I'm not concerned with the many stars. Just one moon is sufficient to shine light everywhere. So Krishna consciousness still absolutely has the potential to revolutionize human society and benefit everyone. Absolutely has that potential. We shouldn't think that it's just a numbers game. We have faith in the holy names of Krishna. We have love and compassion for the fallen conditioned souls, that we can affect so many people in so many wonderful ways. And then people can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just pietism, which is great, but to understand the personality of Godhead is something very special that can only be done by the mercy of the Lord and his devotees. So we are those devotees. Don't wait for somebody else to do it. We are those devotees who can help someone to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have to try to make that happen. Hare Krishna. So there's lots of other things we can unpack from this purport, of course, about the glory of Varsha. It's a sensitive subject these days, but an interesting one. But I'd like to just finish there because I think I've made my point. I hope that point is the same as Srila Prabhupada's point, that Krishna consciousness means Sankirtana, spreading the glories, the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord all over the world. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll read some interesting statements from Srila Prabhupada's letters about spreading Krishna consciousness, but I'd just like to see if any of the devotees have some thoughts or some comments to share. Oh, a digital hand is up from that great dancer, Nagaraj Nitai.
Sorry, Bo.
Hi, Bo.
Thank you. Thank you for your class. I was just reflecting and agreeing on your point about preaching to Americans and trying to cultivate them requires like gallons of blood, sweat, and tears. And it requires a lot of tolerance and patience.
And money.
Yeah, very Krishna. Which of course requires blood, sweat, and tears to acquire.
Compounding blood, sweat, and tears.
And that can be very discouraging for devotees, especially if they didn't grow up in the US, to try and do that.
Mm.
And it is a challenge. However, Krishna is not ungrateful. You know, Gaura Nitai, if you have that desire and you make that effort, they'll give incredible mercy to you, to them. So it's not like Krishna's ungrateful, you know. You have that desire and you try, Krishna reciprocates. So, but a question of faith comes into play there. So, yeah. But anyway, I wanted to say thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for your efforts. I sincerely appreciate it. Very well.
Thank you. Chilling in your rocking chair. You look so cool. Yes, the Lord reciprocates with any effort, really, any effort. It is actually Gaura Nitai who affect the heart of the fallen conditioned souls. I can't tell you how many times before addressing a crowd or leading a kirtan or even just sitting down with somebody at one of our centers to, try to connect with them, I first prayed to Gaura Nitai. Every time, actually, I prayed to Gaura Nitai. I have a little prayer in my head and I say, my Lord, this person is your part and parcel. They belong to you. If you so desire, I can speak in a way that can affect them, have some positive influence. The Lord reciprocates with our effort. We have to recognize that Lord Chaitanya is spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. He is the gardener, harvesting the fruits. But he says, I can't eat all these fruits myself. Someone else has to eat these fruits. That's in that Adi Lila chapter 9, by the way, that gardener analogy. So he's the one enjoying the fruits, but he wants us all to harvest and distribute. So absolutely, must have faith in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Hare Krishna. Oh, Taraka Prabhu, Haribol, thank you for waiting patiently.
Hare Krishna.
Wow.
Tilak. Tilak, thank you. I want to thank you for a very nice Sankirtan class. There's all kinds of classes, that devotees give, and back in the day, Sankirtan classes were popular and always inspirational and enlivening classes, which were geared towards encouraging others to propagate Krishna consciousness, which is in line, of course, with the mood of our acharyas. And so I appreciate your class because it was authoritative and it reflected Srila Prabhupada's own mood of urgency about the matter of propagating Krishna consciousness, giving Krishna consciousness to others. In Srila Prabhupada's case, it was a matter of both compassion. Srila Prabhupada was absolutely full of extraordinary compassion, but also a sense of duty. Preaching on behalf of his own spiritual master, on the order of his spiritual master. One does not necessarily have to have compassion, but you can still preach effectively as a matter of duty, and often preaching begins that way. A devotee may not necessarily have come to the point of feeling genuine compassion, but but out of duty to the spiritual master, on the order of the spiritual master, the devotee endeavors to distribute Krishna consciousness somehow or other, and by that process, he is purified, and the mood of compassion naturally develops in him, because that's actually our pure, uncontaminated nature. It's the nature of a Vaishnava to be compassionate. I would like to hear something from you about, we heard a little bit today about some of your preaching efforts and some of the challenges that you encounter. So we can infer from that one of the ways in which you yourself benefit by the preaching effort is that your horizons are broadened by having to contend with different types of challenges. You have to expand your ability to field different types of questions from people of different mentalities with different cultural backgrounds and ideas. Our own capacity is enhanced by that process. But I'm sure there are lots of other ways in which you have practical experience of being personally benefited by the effort to give Krishna consciousness to others. I'd like to hear a little bit from you about your realizations of that kind of a thing.
To be personally benefited. Okay. I don't really think about it much, but you're personally benefited by Sankirtan in many ways. And one way is that, we have a lot of problems, right? Kaler dosha nidhe, Rajan, this Kali Yuga is just an ocean of problems. And that's a burden, and it sucks. It's like there's always money problems. There's always like the threat of nuclear war. There's always interpersonal problems. Are we going to have another pandemic? Now it's like, is there going to be some sort of AI apocalypse? What to speak of, our personal issues we have with this thing or that thing. And, we can just like worrying about our own problems all the time. But when you do Sankirtana, you reach out to people and you realize, wow, I've got it good. I've got it really good. And other people are really suffering. Because it's one thing to suffer, like, yeah, okay. Money's getting tighter and tighter every day. A lot more economic inequality. Yeah, that's a type of suffering. Hard more to get by. And we can suffer with interpersonal things. I had this conflict here and we're trying to resolve it. But the way people are suffering outside of our community, it's just like, it doesn't even compare. The loneliness that people feel. People are just so lonely. There's so much pain. You won't believe how much pain people are in. Their purposelessness, their confusion. It's just incredible. They suffer so much. We're thinking like, oh, I got problems. We don't have problems. We don't suffer the way some of these people suffer themselves. Sorry, I just have some allergies this season. A lot of pollen in the air. And, so one way you benefit from doing Sankirtan is that you realize that I don't really have so many problems. Right? I can't remember it now, but the verse Prahlad says, as far as I'm concerned, it's because I'm always engaged in hearing and chanting about your magnanimous qualities. I'm simply concerned for those fools who know nothing about you. What is that verse? It's such a beautiful verse. Anyway, So that's one way that I see myself personally benefited. That it really puts our own issues in perspective. When you reach out and try to connect with some of these people, try to see what they're going through and help them, it really makes you remember how fortunate we are that we have an understanding of Krishna consciousness. We have the support of the community of devotees. We take these things for granted because other people, they have nothing, absolutely nothing, and they'll kill themselves for it. Hare Krishna. Just on your point about how we might not have a lot of compassion, so we just do it anyway. I actually asked this question directly to His Holiness Janananda Goswami, whom I guess many people don't know because he doesn't come to America. He does the Australia, New Zealand circuit. And I asked him, how do I feel compassion? And he said, passionately, which is just what you were saying, Taraka Prabhu. If you don't feel a lot of compassion for the suffering condition of the people in general, we just act compassionately by reaching out anyway and trying to give them Krishna consciousness. And then you will see the compassion well up inside of you when they start to express, what they're going through, what they struggle with. And my spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami, said compassion is the strongest spiritual emotions. Yeah, that's the verse. I'm not all afraid of material existence. Yes, thank you, Prahlad Maharaj. So act by just trying to reach out, just trying to give them a book, give them the holy name, and just give them prasadam and talk to them. And then you'll start to feel the compassion develop. And Gurudev said it's a very powerful spiritual emotion. He actually said the most powerful spiritual emotion, but I need to clarify what that means. Maybe when he comes, I'll try to ask him more about what that means. So we just try, even if you don't feel the compassion, just try doing Sankirtan to reach out. And then that compassion will awaken with you. Just like sometimes we go to the kirtan, you might not really feel it at that moment. Maybe we're all still up in our headspace. Oh, I got to do this and I got to do that and this Prabhu and that Prabhu, blah, blah, blah. But you just start chanting anyway. And then you start to feel the love of God. We do the sadhana and then comes the sadhya, the perfection of that spiritual emotion. Anyway. Just what you said, Tarka, reminded me of His Holiness Janananda Goswami, who's so much fun. He's such a wonderful, would come to America. He does Harinam like no one else. All right. Thank you, everyone, for participating in Bhagavatam class this morning. Thank you for listening and for commenting. If there's no other questions or comments, I guess we'll finish here. 8 o'clock on the dot. No? All right. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.